Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Spurs Up. As always, alongside Matt Bumbaka, I'm Jack Taylor, and this week we have Grag Brannon on. He was the executive producer of TV broadcasting and digital media for the Carolina Panthers for 17 years and is now teaching senior semester here at the University of South Carolina, as well as a couple other classes for journalism. And Greg, thank you so much for coming on today.
Well, thanks for having me. Yeah.
And starting off, we would want to just ask a little bit about how you got started in the business.
There's a really long answer to that, so I'll give you the short answer. How about that? I was doing TV news. I was a TV news guy. I was a news anchor, reporter, producer for many years. Went from Ohio to Maryland, West Virginia, into Virginia, and then ended up in Charlotte, producing newscasts at WBTV in Charlotte. And back in October of 1993, I'm dating myself now, was sitting in the newsroom. Actually, I was producing live coverage of an announcement out of Chicago from the NFL that the newest franchise in the NFL was going to be the Carolina Panthers. What I didn't realize was about 4 or 5 months later, the general manager of WBTV came to me and said, hey, look, we're getting ready to sign a broadcast contract with this football team, and we need somebody to produce the TV shows. And I was like, well, sounds pretty good to me, sign me up. So that's when it started. Actually, back in 1994, we did a year's worth of shows before the team was even on the field. Mm-hmm. And did that 5 years at WBTV, and the Panthers decided to take broadcasting in-house, radio and TV. And Mark Richardson, who was the president at the time of the organization, called and said, hey, you want to come do this for us? Mm-hmm. And again, I was like, yeah, sounds good. So that's kind of how it started, and lasted for 17 and a half years. So actually did TV for them for about 22 years.
So you had the special opportunity of being with them from the beginning to about their, as you said, you left after the second Super Bowl appearance?
Yeah, so it would have been August 2017.
Okay, so you had that special opportunity. So talk a little bit about what relationship you get to build with the players and the team, being there, handling everything with TV when it comes to their team.
Yeah, that's a great, some people, journalists will tell you that it's a hindrance to work for a team because you can't look at things and not have the party line or be homers or whatever. But we were always able to cover the team with honesty. It's just the way you approach it. The great part about being a part of a team is you got to know the players, you got to know the coaches. And they were your co-workers, and you got to know their backstories. So it wasn't just about what happened on the practice field or what happened, in a football game. You really got to know what these guys were all about. And I think for somebody who's producing TV shows for the team, and of course that evolved into the website and social media, that knowing these guys just allows you to tell their story a lot better.
What was it like seeing the growth of the franchise from the beginning to where they are now? And like Jack said, the 2 Super Bowl appearances, everything that's happened in the past 15, 20 years.
Yeah, a roller coaster ride, and for most professional teams, it's like that. Very few organizations do you win year after year after year, and I won't even mention those guys who are up in New England. They seem to figure it out, at least the past 15 years. It's a roller coaster ride. You come into the league, the Panthers did great their inaugural season in '95, surprised a lot of people. 1996, you go to an NFC championship game. Who would have thought? Then there were some lean years, right? You think back to 2001, and that was the 1 in 15 year. That was a really, really long year. And to be part of an organization, what people don't understand, when a team loses on Sunday, as a fan, you complain about it, then you go on with your life. Well, if you're part of a franchise, you deal with that on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, until you play the next game or till you win the next game. And in 2001, that happened one time. The very first game of the year, the Panthers won up in Minnesota. Then it was 15 straight losses. So, you get to see the good and the bad being part of an organization. The 2 Super Bowl appearances, after the 2003 season and go to Houston, and I did sideline radio for that game. Just an incredible experience. I think for a sports journalist or even a sports fan, to be on the field for a Super Bowl, it's very special. Now, obviously, that one didn't end well. And then, of course, back in 2015, another opportunity to be on the sideline, out in San Francisco, and really thought the Panthers had a good chance to win that game, and it just didn't go their way. So even within that, you ride those peaks and valleys of you're at a Super Bowl, and for team media or being part of television and website and social media to go to a Super Bowl and to take all the things you work so hard on, to be able to take that to a Super Bowl, and then for your fan base to be able to create content that they're just eating up, that was a thrill, again, until the end of the game, and then not so much fun.
Yeah, how did the wins and losses kind of affect the content? Did that, when it was really bad in that 1-15 season, does that kind of change the way you would go about creating content for the team and whatnot? And
well, it gets back to what I was saying. You've got to be consistent with what you do, but everything is easier when you win.
Exactly.
Which means, conversely, everything is harder when you lose. The guys, and when I say the guys, the players and coaches, they know you've got a job to do. They know who you are, and you still have to go interview them. But after you've lost the 6th game in a row, that starts to get hard, and you still have a coach's show to do, and you still have this show to do, and you have to do this on the website, and you need to get stuff out on social media. It gets harder. And I always told our folks that we have to be even better when we're losing. Okay, because it is more difficult, but you've got to still cover the team. You still have to look for the stories. When you're winning, like I say, it's fun. You're just going and blowing, and when you're losing, it's a lot harder because you have to be very professional, and you can't just say, hey, let's stop, because you can't.
Now, you touched on it a bit, and I've sort of seen a transition from it in today's social media world, where the teams that they cover on social media or on even TV, when their team does lose, you see a bit of almost not a bias towards it, but you can see that they're not being as professional as they used to be. Do you think that that's a change that is kind of making it a bit more unprofessional, or how do you
No, I hope that anyone who has their hands on an outlet, a media outlet from a professional team, will always stay professional. You can't get petty, and things do happen. Again, that's why you've got to be even better when things go badly. I think what has happened in the time that I was at the Panthers, it was television and radio when I came in, right?
Yeah.
Well, then you added the website in there, and then you added social media. So I went from a 2-person department to a department of 18 people, and then freelancers on top of that. So it went like this. And the big part of that was digital media. Social media and digital media, the website, really became much more important than doing TV shows. And so I would hope that no matter who's controlling those outlets, you've got to be professional, which is why you can have fun, but you have to understand how far you can push that.
And you mentioned it before about the coach's show, which was something that you started to do towards the beginning and middle career. Talk about that, getting to interview coaches and getting to do that little post-game show. What was that like?
So doing the coach's show is terrific. You get to know the coach very well, obviously. We would do a show during the week, that would air before the game, and then we did a post-game show. And it's all about relationship building. And if you don't have a good relationship, it can be tough. The 2 most difficult interviews I did was John Fox after the Super Bowl in 2003, and Ron Rivera after the Super Bowl in 2015. And for anyone, again, if you have a relationship and you've just lost the biggest game in your profession, and of course in the NFL you could argue the biggest game, period, right? Then to go into a locker room 10 minutes, 15 minutes after that game, and now I'm going to drop a microphone in your face. That's when it's hard, and that's when you have to rely on your professionalism. And he has to rely on his professionalism and then that relationship that you've built. So I enjoyed that part. I loved that relational part of the business. If this guy trusts you, if a coach trusts you, then he's going to talk to you when things aren't good.
What drew you away from the Panthers to come here to USC and teach at the University of South Carolina?
A number of things. I was in TV broadcasting for 35 years, and you do that 6-7 days a week. And that can, eventually you get tired of doing something. And I love doing what I was doing. But professional sports, it is 12 months out of the year now, 6-7 days a week. I had heard about the senior semester program. My son is actually a 2016 graduate of the University of South Carolina. He was a PR major. So I knew about the senior semester program, had an opportunity to guest lecture down here a couple times. And someone sent me an email and said, hey, FYI, don't know if you're interested, but there's a position open in senior semester. So I started going through the application process, and it's been terrific. I love being down here, and I've really enjoyed, this is my 2nd year, so really have enjoyed it.
Well, Greg, thank you for coming on and talking about the Panthers. And Mubaka actually provided a great transition into our next segment coming out in a few minutes, where we're going to talk to Greg about his career here at South Carolina and the multiple things he's done here. So stick around, and until next time, Spurs up.